Welcome to Community Forum. My name is Roy Cohen, and I'll be hosting this week's show, which I think you'll find pretty interesting. We have a couple of guests on who are really in the know, both very active citizens in the town of Stoughton with the facts. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to, on my left is Bob Cohn, C-O-H-N, similar to mine, but very different and very very different. Let's leave it at that. And Bob, welcome to the show. And Peter Brown, also very knowledgeable and full of facts. And you can see by the papers in front of each of us that it's going to be quite a discussion that you hopefully will be watching, and you'll learn a lot about our current Board of Selectmen and the government in our town. The subject encompasses the recent discharge of the former town manager, and with that I'm going to let Bob initiate the conversation with the decision not to renew the contract.
I'll refer that to Peter.
Okay, Peter.
Well, first off, thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate you giving us the time to come on. And secondly, I want to say that it's regrettable that we have to come on and talk about this. It was our hope that we didn't have to ever come before the folks and share with them everything that's gone on from the time that we decided way back in December of 2016 not to renew the town manager's contract up until where we're at today. And the reason I'm here is I happen to be disappointed with one of the selectmen that went on YouTube or Facebook post. I can't remember which I saw it on, YouTube. But went on and talked about them settling this deal with the former town manager, and that we knew a bunch of the risks that were involved, and also that the town folks should feel sorry for us. I don't want anyone's pity. I don't think anyone should feel sorry for us. I appreciate, hellos and how you're doing, but you don't need to feel sorry for us. We made the right decision. We know that both legally, professionally, and all the judges who have ruled and basically supported our decision. So we don't need anyone to feel bad for us, but if you want, I can start by talking about the decision not to renew the town manager's contract and when we made that and how we went about that, if that's how you'd like to start. I provided a list of chronological events. I have with us today a number of things that transpired. And the first and foremost, when I ran for Board of Selectmen, my first time was in 2015. I actually ran against Bob and one of the selectmen and Ms. Walsh. And I came in fourth. I didn't win. I came in fourth out of four. The following year, I ran as a write-in candidate, and I won. I won against a very established, nice gentleman in town. And there was a lot of talk at the time about not keeping the town manager based on the chief of police decision and unions having votes of no confidence in the town manager. And there were a number of other things, but I wasn't going to get on that. I wasn't going to get on there and just give a fourth vote or be just part of an established decision. I wanted to observe, and see what was going on. So, after watching a lot of things happen, you would need 10 shows to tell you where we're at and how we arrived at the December decision. But to move forward to December of 2016, and just one piece of advice I should remind folks, because we had a lot of residents come before us in the months of July and August of 2016. My first season on there, a lot of folks came before us and said, if you get rid of the town manager, you're doing wrong, you're being wrong, and let him finish his contract. If you don't think he's doing a good job, let him complete his contract. So a lot of people that knew that the contract must have allowed us to do something, take some action. So I want the folks to remember that, because it's very important when you get to where we bring you to. In July and August of 2016, many very well in the know people that have been involved in town politics, have held political positions, came before us and asked us to let him finish his contract. None of us could disagree with that. We proceeded along. So in December of 2016, the chairman decided that he didn't want to renew his contract, talked with the board, and 3 of us decided that we'd agree with him. So we provided a letter to the former town manager in December, 6 months prior to his end and date of his contract, which was June of 2017. I have all the letters with me here. So in December of 2016, and in his contract, it says if you're going to do that, it says right here under the employment section 1, it says that under that the town manager agrees to continue employment with the town until June 30, 2017, to remain in the exclusive employ of the town, not to become employed by any other employee until the end of such employment term, unless termination or resignation is effective, as provided in section 14 below. Should the town fail to notify the town manager that the agreement will not be extended within 6 months of the expiration of the agreement, then the agreement shall continue in full force and effect for another year, 1-year term, and all compensation benefits shall remain in effect. So bottom line is, we understood this to be, if we notify him 6 months, he now knows that he has to either start looking for a job or we have to work out better conditions, which we tried to do. And in fact, on many occasions. So in December, the letter was issued to him. He got it, business continued. That was just a notification, no big deal. We had an election in April. The chairman at the time was challenged. He won the election. The challenger, who's currently on the Board of Selectmen now, lost, and the Board of Selectmen became what it appeared to be a 3-2 split board. And it appeared that, and that was the appearance of what people want to say. So in April, there was a discussion again whether or not what was going to happen with the town manager. So a second letter was provided to the town manager at the meeting. In fact, the meeting became disruptive because the town manager threatened lawsuit. He actually was using the former selectman to put together the lawsuit. We were served a piece of paper during the meeting. We kind of had a call to order, take a recess, got things back in order, and we said we'd talk about this at a later date with the town manager, which we did, but he was given a second letter in April. Then leading up to and into town meeting that particular year, there were lots of discussions about what could be corrected and what could improve. And one of the major things that I had as a Board of Selectmen is I had a problem with civilians, people, and what I mean by civilians is residents that weren't really actually in a elected position or serving on any committee, had unfettered access. Certain people had unfettered access to the town manager, and some people, like elected officials, like some of us, had very limited access. So that was bothersome to me. Then in town meeting, there was an article heard, and I want to be very clear on this. There was an article heard about a quiet study to be conducted around the train stations, and there was a whole lot of reason why they wanted the train station conducted, but I couldn't understand where the article came from. Actually, I'm sorry, it was to increase the budget on the engineer to put about $80,000 or $60,000 to $90,000
to run a study
in the study, so they could do a study, and that was being proposed by a resident that was a former selectman who also had very accessible access to the town manager. And I said to the town engineer while he was presenting, I said, during the meeting, I turned to him, I said, Mark, this is unusual for you to come so late to the game with this type of request, and you don't really seem to have a handle on the facts. You always get up here and have your fact. He goes, I was given this directive yesterday. Now, this was a Wednesday night at town meeting. Tuesday, the day before was Tuesday. I said, who gave you that? He says, the town manager gave me the directive, and it was at the behest of the resident who had sent emails. So I was sitting to myself, I said, so you're telling me this resident has that much control to be able to go into the town manager's office and give the town manager an idea of increasing a budget by $90,000 so they can conduct a quiet study. Now, there's a lot more that goes about that, why they want to do the quiet study and who was going to benefit from it, but I don't want to share that at this point because I don't have evidence to prove there may have been malfeasance. But my point was, I was angry because I'm saying the town manager is working on behalf of a private citizen to get something done on behalf of the private citizen that doesn't really have a benefit to the taxpayers. So that was why, at the point, I said enough is enough. So in June, we served him his letter of non-renewal. He was on vacation. He took a vacation. And I think it was since changed when he got the letter. He said, I'm now out on sick leave or whatever. That's not how that went down. He went on vacation. The letter was issued. Now, was it fair to do that with him not there? You could argue all day, no, maybe he should have been there or whatever. But there was no need to have a hearing, and he was never going to be granted a hearing because it wasn't that action. We weren't releasing him from, according to the charter, which a lot of people confuse. They want to keep saying the charter, you need 4 people to fire. No one was terminated, and that's how the case was ruled, by the way.
Correct.
So we just exercised a condition in his employment contract, which anybody who knows contracts, and there are several people out there that know, including some Board of Selectmen now, and people that came before us, one or two of them were attorneys. They were standing before us saying, just let him finish his contract if you don't want to keep him. So it was it's ironic that they had to go to a recall system.
You already satisfied the discontinuing of his employment by sending him a letter 6 months in advance.
Correct.
So these other letters were within that 6 month.
Right.
Why did you have to do that?
We didn't. We didn't have to send them any
just
further
did
than we
it.
could. We did it just to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's, and to kind of give them the idea that we were going in that direction. We wanted everybody to know. We knew people were going to go up in arms, people that had allegiance to him, and people that were getting their agenda seen to them. Now, you have to remember, when the town manager didn't come back, a lot of people lost access to moving forward with their agendas.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to, whether it was they didn't want to work with us or didn't want to come through our board, they wanted just to go around or whatever the case is. While he was still there was no need to have a recall. But as soon as he was gone, they needed to get rid of us. And how do you get rid of us? You come up with those charges, those phony charges. First off, all of them were ridiculous charges. I asked the resident to come before and explain to the residents, tell the people what you have for us. Don't pass it around, because, to be honest with you, I ran into somebody in one of the buildings one day who didn't know me from Adam initially, and asked me to sign the recall paperwork, and I kind of chuckled and said, what's the recall for? And the person went on to say, oh, actually, it's about you. I said, about me. Educate me. Tell me about it. He didn't know nothing. Zero. All he knew was what he was told. His talking points were hundreds of thousands of dollars were going to be used or spent in the town, which is kind of funny because there's a pending lawsuit right now that's several $1 million no one talks about. Several million. We had nothing to do with, by the way. But in the meantime, that was what was going on in there. To get the recall, to get rid of us, to get back to taking control or going in the direction they want, they had to get rid of us. We exercised our options. We were advised by counsel. Am I talking too much, Bob? You want to get
No,
on? Counsel was right behind us. Everything we did, we dot I's and cross our T's. We didn't do anything without counsel's advice.
Okay.
And then it's not known to a lot of people, but the original court was drafted by, I think, several people, because the former town manager doesn't have the same lawyer that initially started with him. So when they originally drafted this, I think there were several people that were involved. I want to look, make sure I'm looking at you. I think there were residents involved, coming up with all these great little legal mumble jumble nonsense words and things in this nature. And they filed the charge. Get this. They filed the case in federal court. They wanted to include civil rights violations against myself, Mr. Cohn, and Mr. Souza. Civil rights violations. Now, I've never heard one person, not one person to this day, ever say anything, was there a civil rights violation? Have you?
No.
No. You didn't even hear that inside the phony affidavit. And I do say it's phony because I don't think the person even wrote it, the one who submitted it. But in the meanwhile, and this is really the first time I'm talking about this stuff because it's aggravating. It really is. But it's frustration I had to be here, but it's over for me when I'm here. Unless somebody wants to have a debate about this, this is it for me. I'm not going to be talking about this anymore. We're at a situation where it has to be done, but people have to know the facts, and these are the facts. So,
one other thing, Peter. Also, when this was all going on, the press were making all kinds of statements, these selectmen. In any of these cases, I was never called. I think he was called once. The press put in things that other people filled them in. I never said anything. I never wanted to. And any press that called, no comment, no comment, no comment. Mm-hmm. I don't air dirty laundry out in the press. And by the way, what went on here was we had a riot every week, out of order, accusing us of everything. Some of those ads were pretty, a matter of fact, I have two of them right now that might have filed charges. One that sent out a postcard that was absolutely a disgrace. Looked me straight in the face a week earlier and did it behind my back. Another one told me about a white man, an old white man, that's sitting in court right now. That's just not what happened, and accused us of doing things. but never followed through.
Well, also it should be remembered, we were limited what we could say.
That's right.
We were defendants in a lawsuit. So we weren't able to share much, and unfortunately for our colleagues, there were a couple of people that were able to share, and they took liberty with sharing as much as they could publicly when they can, and disagreeing with judges and all this. Again, to your detriment, it proves right. The judges were in favor of us. So I want to fast forward to the injunction, because when the case was filed in the federal court, to get an injunction heard within days, it's almost impossible. So they had to take a strategic move, and they had to take the case out of federal court and put it into Superior Court so they could get an injunction heard within several days, so he could be ruled whether he had a job or not. But to do that, to get it into Superior Court, you had to drop civil rights cases. You can't take civil rights charges into Superior Court. So those charges were dropped immediately, right in the beginning. So then we're down to 4 or 5 charges, and most of them were town. 1, I guess, pended against us or something to that effect. So then the injunction was, and by the way, one of the selectmen said at a meeting that the town filed the injunction. He first said that the town manager filed the injunction, and then he said, "Oh, correction, the town manager filed the injunction to keep his job." The judge said, "No, you're not entitled to the job." So therefore, we had to put an interim town manager in. Now, we did have an interim town manager going in, and I don't know if you want to talk about that. Or
The internal town manager, that we had 2 in mind. One refused it, one took the job and did a very good job at it. We were looking.
Why'd the one refuse it?
Well, he had a little pressure inside, like, if you take that, your job might not be here.
Oh,
And
Well,
threatened lawsuit.
Threatened lawsuit, too.
Yeah.
These are the things that went behind the scenes that no one knew. The next thing is, and we went to a second person, and we said, "Would you fill in for a couple of weeks?" So he did, and he did a good job at it. Then we started to not interview, but narrow the list down. The other 2 weren't going to agree to anything we were going to do anyway. So we came up with Stephen Assis. Well-respected businessman, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, did a great job when he was in here. And we asked Steve to do it. He said he would. We never bothered him. He did. You could see at meetings, he gave reports of what was going on every meeting.
Steve jump-started the town that needed it. Believe it or not, you could say, and this needs to be said, because I gotta ask. I'm actually pleading with the current Board of Selectmen, and I'm going to give them some recommendations. Do yourself a favor. Stop writing or saying that the previous board was the problem that you all inherited. You've been in office now a year and several months.
More than, yeah.
Almost as long, or maybe even longer, than I served. And I could tell you, we're proud of the things that we did. We're not going to get into that right now, but this board needs to take just a little hint from me. It's not everyone, it's a few of them. They keep talking about a previous board. You own your actions, and you own whatever's going on here. Don't try to pass off blame to another board, because that's just either A, poor sportsmanship, or a basic failure. So my advice is, start accepting some of your own responsibility and do the right thing for the town, because we'll be behind you. Like I told you, this isn't personal. I'm not here to attack them. I'm here to just give the facts, because I did not like and I didn't agree with somebody getting on and telling people that we knew risk, because I'm going to show you where they knew the same, and that people in the town needed to feel sorry for us. Under no condition do I want pity from anybody. I welcome your friendship. I don't need pity. So let's move forward to the injunction, which was in July 2017. It was denied. The case, we meet, we decide we're going to fight the case. This is where the selectman the other night says they knew the risks, meaning us. Well, the risks we were minimum, because we were listening to counsel that we had good, trusted counsel on this. Not labor attorneys. We had attorneys that know these cases. Then we were given one of the best attorneys in the state, Lenny Keston, who the insurance company hired to represent us. We knew it was a home run. This man has got an outstanding victory record and litigates. all courts at all levels, and he's been very, very successful. So we were very comfortable. So what happens? The case starts. The recall is now taking place. They get the signatures. There's going to be a recall. We set a date. There was some talk we should oppose the recall. And in some ways, I feel like our constitutional rights were bounced all over. In fact, someday that has to be looked at a little further, because I don't think that the way recalls get done. You tell me 900 people can decide the fate of the town leadership, and you know they say they got 1,300 signatures, whatever they certified. It was closer to 1,200, a little less. But that was a travesty. I see it was a power grab. Now, recall takes place, they win. Now, remember, the three challenges all campaigned on, we were wrong. Two of the selectmen that were sitting on the board, we were wrong. So now you have 5 of them all together saying, we were wrong. We did everything accordingly. We violated process. We didn't follow the charter. We were rude. We were reckless. And in some cases, I'm gonna say it every time I can, I lost my temper one day, and to this day I regret it. I wish I didn't. I did it in a meeting, and I apologize for it, and I hope someday people will be able to forgive me for it. But it was frustrating. Week in and week out, it's like going to battle. It was like I played football, so I can compare it to preparing for a football game. It was like, who's going to show up tonight to insult us or scream at us or to say we were terrible or say this or that? It was like a challenge every day just going there. But at any rate, the recall takes place. We lose. We're out. We're gone. Now, Brown, Souza, Cohn are out. In there are the 5 selectmen. All seem to agree we were wrong. They meet with the town council, insurance council, and he says to them, what do you want to do, Bobby?
That was on January 2nd, 2018.
2018.
2018, going along. He told them a few things. He said, you can rehire them, you can fire them, take a vote, you can put them in a smaller position, they'll pay him $1 or something like that. They agreed to, or we can continue the case. They said continue the case.
Now you have to know there was options. The Board of Selectmen was presented with options.
Options to do this.
Right.
The options were there, they continued. Again, the Board of Selectmen were trying to say it's all our fault. They're the ones that created this problem by not doing a thing. All of a sudden now it's a big rush, we got to get this, because Hartman's attorney threatened to sue him. So so we go on, Lenny goes again.
Can I just add to that, Bobby, just one thing, because the insurance council offered them options. This is important to remember this, because remember I said to you, the selectmen said we knew the risk. Well, now the risks, whatever they may have been, are now on the 5 selectmen that are sitting in as elected position. Mr. Keston offered them 4 or 5 options. One of them was what we expected them to do, hire him back. You said we were wrong, hire him back. They claim it was never an option at this point. I don't know why. Number 2 was, and Bob touched upon it, but it's very important, Mr. Keston said, then eliminate the town's risk going forward. Fire them with a 4 vote according to the charter. Take 4 votes, 5 votes, whatever it is, fire them. Eliminate what can possibly be done for damages. So keep in mind now, he was out from December 2017. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, June of 2017.
June 1st.
Through December of...
No, July 1st.
I'm sorry, through January 2018. So it's only several months. So if they fired him, at that point, they would have been in compliance with the charter according to their argument, and there would have been no
$70,000.
There would have been no reason to sue.
That's right.
Right? Or they would have just settled the 6 months payment. They couldn't have got any more. Mr. Keston was adamant by telling us this. So if the town eliminated their liability and fired them, then there you go. Or if they didn't want to bring them back in that position, reassign them to something, pay them less, do whatever you want to do. Or proceed with the case. They elected to proceed with the case, which they assume now at this point, all risk. But the case, they won.
And they won.
Who's advising them?
I have no idea.
At this point, we have no idea.
By the way, that was televised by Jeff Pickett, was at that trial. It was on tape.
Well, an interesting thing occurred in May, the same month that the ruling came down, and we have the case here. In May, the Board of Selectmen, under the consent agenda of May 31st, 2018, they elected to appoint a law firm of the name of Merrick, O'Connell, DeMailey, and LePigi. Now, I believe the lawyer that's currently representing this board is the lawyer that took on the responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen. So it was almost like now the Board of Selectmen had their own counsel. The three of us were being represented by the insurance counsel and whatever other counsel that they would utilize or what have you. Bob, I can't see you, Roy. So whatever counsel they yeah, but I'm looking to try to tell you, whatever other counsel they were utilizing. Now, we don't know what this council did in terms of providing the town services, because we never talked to them.
There's no record.
Well, I'm sure there is.
There is a
I'm
record.
not saying
There's
there's no
gotta be a
record.
record.
They got to have some bills and stuff like that. But bear in mind now, the case is dismissed. All charges dismissed in May. The judge, very respected judge, Superior Court judge, he dismisses the case. Victory to the town. Victory to us. So what happens? The former town manager decides to file an appeal. So he goes and files an appeal in the appeals court. Now, we have nothing to do with this, although we're named in it. We never appeared before court. They had a couple appearances. It appears to me they never took any action in appeals court. What I mean by that is they never argued any of the facts. They never presented any briefs, never any documents. That all they did was file the appeal to saying, well, look, we have an issue with the Superior Court's decision. We need to know. So now think about that. What was really taking place at that point? Were there knowledge of mediation taking place outside the court? Were there plans to settle this without going to appeals court? Because once you file an appeal, your appeals attorney has to start preparing for that appeal. And you're required to submit documents, briefs they're called, for the arguments. That's costly to the plaintiff or the defendants. But in our case, we had insurance counsel still representing us. Remember this, when the insurance counsel, one of the things they said, oh, you're going to cost the town
Millions.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Well, the only money that the town was on the hook for was the recall election that they forced upon us, which was about $35,000. B, the money that was paid to Hartman for his sick time and his leave, comp, whatever else he had. That was paid when he left in July or June. And then you had the deductible that's paid to the insurance company for the attorney. So we paid the deductible. That's the only fee that we were basically can be responsible for. Now, the other attorney has got to be paid by the plaintiff, former town manager. The other attorney that brought in here has to be paid by I'm assuming the taxpayers. We don't know what the costs are there. So to say that we were spending money is a fallacy. It's a lie. It's not true. So when they went into the appeals court, we were thinking that the appeals court, we're going to hear something from the appeals court, we're going to be notified. We don't know what's going on. Then all of a sudden, Bobby, we moved to September. Take it up.
September comes along,
2018.
18. September 4th was a very important meeting. It's executive session, so we don't know. We're only surmising what happened into that executive session, that they appointed, and this is only surmisal, that Bob O'Regan and Sullivan were the two, the board must have voted to have them represent them, the two key guys.
In mediation.
In mediation. Right. They go, they had a Board of Selectmen meeting, it was brought normal there. That was public record. They go along again. We know nothing that goes on. But we have to sign papers at the end of this that we agree to this. So we went along, and all of a sudden, I think it was the 1st of January, Peter, that we started.
Sometime in January.
Somewhere in January, we got a call from Lenny Kester. And Lenny represented them. He says, do you guys know what's going on? I said, no. He says, they're going to arbitration. I want you to know what's going on. I and the insurance company is one. They had Hartman's attorney. They had the other attorney that they had.
There was on the day of mediation, you had a couple of selectmen with their attorney from this Merrick.
And also what they did, when they went to arbitration, and I've never been to, this is what our attorney said, they usually sit in a big round table, and they took it off. Well, certain selectmen wanted to have private rooms, and you go in and out, go in and out, go in and out, go in and out. So that cut off communications from the insurance company to this. Basically, it was Hartman, his attorney, O'Regan, and the attorney they hired to do this negotiation. Lenny, and it is, where is it?
So what Bob's trying to say to you is, on the day of the mediation, a very unusual scenario occurred that we don't know. It was explained to us that instead of negotiating or having a round table discussion, there was 4 different rooms with 4 different parties coming up with an agreement. It was the town of Stoughton with their representation. It was Lenny Keston representing us and the insurance company, and then it was Mr. Hartman and his attorney, and then you had the retired judge that
Superior Court judge they had.
Does the mediation. So he went from room to room, talking and whatnot, and it went on all day. And I guess at the end of the day, there was an agreement made, and the agreement was said that that the town that they would settle. Bottom line is that the settlement would be $125,000 paid to Mr. Hartman, 60 from the insurance company, 65 from the town of Stoughton, and with that there would also be some language issues. Number one is he'd have 6 months of credited service towards his retirement. I don't even argue with that. I think the gentleman should get his retirement. I say he should have his retirement. Number two, though, there were some things.
Well,
Number three, there were.
The terms were that Mr. Hartman would get $83,568.50 for him. His legal fees out of this 125 was $41,438.50. The only problem here in this contract, what they signed was, and you can't see it, but it is here.
Yeah, they can't see
They
it.
can't see it. The person, and one other thing in that thing, we read it all over, and one other thing was going to happen, that they were going to go back to Superior Court and bring this down back to Dedham Court and have this case dismissed for the town, not for us, but for the town. So if you looked at this, it's a loss for the town.
Basically, in addition to the monies paid, 60 from the insurance company, remember, 65 from the town. The total 125, where it was going and how it was going to be distributed, Bob read to you. But the thing that should cause an eyebrow to be raised is, why does the Board of Selectmen want to go back to Superior Court? Well, first off, they have to withdraw the case from Appeals Court. That's been agreed upon, supposedly, at this point. Withdraw the Appeals Court case, no more case. Then they wanted to go back into Superior Court and ask for the judge to vacate the town's decision, meaning the victory. We can't, I still don't know why they do that.
It doesn't sound like it makes any sense.
It's right here in the terms.
Right here on the agreement, Roy. Another thing that I have questions about this whole thing. And again, they worked this, $125,000, remember, is the settlement. How about the attorney they have that did all this work, all these agreements he had, wrote up this agreement? He's been on the payroll since May. How much is that? Can't find out. You have to go to the selectman to find that out, because I went into the treasurer's office and he says, you'll have to go to the town manager's office or go see the selectman. That's public information, folks. Public information. The question is, how do you settle a case when you don't know how much you're paying? Mr. Hartman deserves everything he gets in his pension. But now 6 months more moves him up a step. This is a pension. Either he can get a payout, and I might be wrong on this, or he can get it and it goes on to his wife. Thank God the guy's in good health. How much is that going to be worth? I went to sue. oh, I can't get you that information, it can't be done. We'll use an example. If someone's making a pension and he gets 60% of it, how difficult is the additional? That 6 months all along was Hartman's big thing. He wanted that 6 months in the pension. I don't agree, but tell me how much it's worth. They don't know how much it's worth. I don't know how much it's worth. In this paper that was signed, it was signed by the town's attorney, Mr. Van Norris, whatever his name is. I asked this question at a selectmen meeting about 3 weeks ago, and they said, well, we didn't, the chairman stood right up and said, I didn't sign it. Well, if you didn't sign it, who signed it? There should be some record somewhere that this guy was given authorization to sign the agreement.
Right.
It's all executive session. I can't answer that. These are questions that should be answered. I'm not running chat, but if we're going to do things, do it right. When we ran for office, we were wide open to the people. We hired a police chief. You had a video of actually what went on at these things. There's no question. This has all been a big secret. Executive session, I can't answer the question. You ask the selectman a question, oh, that's confidential information. Well, now all this stuff is going to come out. How much did we really, is $125,000 or is it $250,000? Could it be $300,000? Could it be $200,000? We don't know. And all the numbers aren't put together. They're going to the finance committee. I think they're moving money to pay Hartman's legal bills. But who's going to pay the legal bills for them? Their special town council.
Who's not going to be funded when they move money?
I don't know what happened. I'm going up after this to see Mr. Rowe, ask him a question. To me, I asked this to Peter. He said, can't answer you. They're good questions. What are we going to do? I says, that's all I want to know is answers. And as we went along, and I think Peter was the one, we got a letter. I got an email from Bob O'Regan that wanted to meet with us. Peter got one too. Peter, and he can go along.
Just talk about your thing now.
All right. I refused because Peter had a letter, and that's up to him to meet with him. Why would you want to meet with me? You know, the letters that led up to this stuff, and what you did, and all of a sudden we want to be friends. We want to do the best.
We appeared at a meeting in March when they said that they were going to settle. We were invited to attend. Initially, they didn't really want to let us say anything, but it came to the point where they let us talk, and they were very respectful. The Board of Selectmen was very respectful. They listened to our concerns. We strongly opposed the settlement. We still believe we were right. We don't think that it was necessary to settle, but if the town wants to move forward, that might be the best way to go ahead and do it. So we said, you got to do what you got to do. You guys are calling the shots now. We have nothing to say. But all we have in our rights is to maintain we were right. Mm-hmm. Okay? No one has to say it. Bob's referring to a communication we had with Mr. O'Regan, which were excellent communications.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with it.
I spoke to him. I met with him. I spoke to him. I agreed to agree. Let's try to get this thing and move forward. And it's important to me to move forward. But I wouldn't even be here, Roy, talking about this if it wasn't for that video I saw the other day. And I thought it was so condescending and so pompous and so disrespectful that I'm tired of reading candidates' ads saying how the prior board was this, the prior board was that. I'm tired of hearing people say it in meetings. They said it the other night. Again, one of the selectmen saying something about the selectmen didn't do. I'm tired of that. So I felt strongly that I need to set the record straight. These are facts. These are facts. These are not lies. These are not made up fantasies in somebody's head somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's all available to anybody if you just want to do a little research. There were paperwork put out, opinions by different lawyers and saying that this, that, and the other thing. I'll tell you what, I never seen any opinion. I never was given any opinion from the current law firm they use for their labor contracts. There was a written opinion showed up at one point later on down the road. I was never given any opinion with that. In fact, we wouldn't even use that law firm because we didn't have any trust in that law firm for these issues. They do a great job, contracts, good for them. That's where their specialty is.
Yeah.
But to have to listen to that and endure that type of, it was almost like reliving the nightmare of us being recalled based on, again, I will argue that those charges, if they were so legitimate, why couldn't you come forward? Or if you didn't want to do it yourself, send someone before. Let the whole town hear it. Let everybody shine the light on it. So that's why I'm here today. It's not the, and again, I spoke, Mr. Sullivan the other day, I had a nice conversation with him at the meeting we went to give out. I got no problem with where they're trying to get and what they're trying to do about get this behind them. It's the best thing to do, basically, to get this behind them. But make no mistake, there were a lot of mistakes made and a lot of things took place that basically, I have to say, they had to take place to make this group look politically right. And that is a question you have to ask yourself. Is this based all on being politically right? Because if we weren't wrong and they weren't right,
Then where are we?
what happened?
I don't know.
Right.
Then we get down to Peter touching a little bit. Some selectmen put an ad in the paper 2 weeks ago with all the accomplishment. I happened to be in the engineer's office, and he said, "Hey, do you remember the downtown area? They're going to new sidewalks. They're going to move 138 over. We voted that 2 years ago. The money is here. The Public Works are holding this whole thing up. For 2 years, we've been waiting. It's time for the Public Works now to start doing their job." They mentioned about the Chengdu. If it wasn't for our town planner, Maureen O'Toole, that would have been down the creek a long time ago. But Maureen O'Toole kept in contact. And by the way, we're going to miss Maureen O'Toole for her grant money and what she's done for this town. Believe me, she's done a great, great job.
I hope she's not leaving.
She's gone.
She's gone?
Yeah, she left the town.
Left the
Oh,
first
what
of
a
the year.
shame. What a shame.
She did a lot of work for the town.
A
But
lot of work.
do you have any questions you want to ask that maybe you're curious about? Because I know we did a lot of talking. I know I did a lot of talking as well.
That's unusual for me,
Yeah,
Peter.
I know.
You silenced Bobby, which is
No,
a
no,
great-
no. You didn't silence me. It's
we-
Peter did a lot of research into this.
I can
I
see
was
that.
doing the technical stuff behind certain things for him too. But the thing is, we wanted the people to know. Again, that selectman that put that on, I'm the one that picked it up, and I called Peter and I said, "Watch your blood pressure." And he called me back. I thought he was going to put the telephone in my window.
No.
But
I was angry, aggravated.
But you know something? He's done it before to me. And he should know better by now of how many times he was wrong when he was running against me, and he accused me of stuff. He didn't even know where Glenn Echo, the attorneys, he said to me, you had new attorneys. We never hired any new attorneys. It was always the same attorneys.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and we have some public service announcements that we're going to play, and then take a breather. And then when we come back, I'd like to, if I can ask you your opinion of the current board. That's a
That's
possibility?
what you can do.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Roy Cohen. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen, located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. You can reach them by calling 781-341-1662. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. You can volunteer by calling 1-800-ACS-6662 or online at www.cancer.org. Ilse Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market is located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. To get involved with Meals on Wheels, call Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. The Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business. They're located at 27 Rose Glen Street in Stoughton. To advertise, call 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes here in Stoughton. You can see it on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 6 p.m. Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., either on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Samaritans, 41 West Street, 4th floor in Boston, Massachusetts, 02111, or call them at 617-536-2460. The 24-hour helplines, 877-870-HOPE or 877-870-4673. Samaritans, 800-252-TEEN or 800-252-8336, or online www.samaritanshope.org. For you bingo players, I want to tell you about the Monday Night Bingo being held at the Ahava Torah Congregation, 1179 Central Street in Stoughton. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. The games start at 6:30 p.m. You come on down and win some money. They have two big prizes. One is $1,199 and the other one is up to $3,000. So come on down.
Alan
The
Westbound.
Stoughton Lions Club, they're having their annual golf tournament at the Cedar Hill Golf Course, 1137 Park Street, which is Route 27 in Stoughton, on Saturday, May 18th, 2019. If you're interested, contact Walter Poshley at 781-408-1248 or wposhley@gmail.com. And that's the public services announcements. I have a mention that I'd like to make about Barbara Canavan. I went to visit her the other day. She is recuperating at the Copley Nursing Home in Stoughton. If you have a chance, send her a card or even go up and visit her. Barbara was in the assessor's office for years. She's been a library trustee for over 40 years. Her brother, Francis Daly, has passed away, but he was a trustee for 40 years and a veteran and a history teacher. And they named a square for him at Walnut and Park Street. She was a classmate and a good friend of Frank Crimmins' father. She raised 6 kids alone. Her husband died right after the last one was born. Her cousin was the longtime town clerk, Margaret, I guess that's Fitzpatrick, who has a conference room named after her in Town Hall. I thank you for the information. And also, I'd like to, before we run out of time, thank Mike Hammond, Jeff Pickett, Dave Young, C.J. Mullen, and Gina Coe for their assistance in producing this show. We have Leo McGowan, who's still on the sick list. He's recuperating. And I mentioned about Barbara. Gentlemen, we have some time, and there must be something nice that you could say about the current board, or whatever you want. I leave it up to you.
You want to start? I have no problem. Yeah, I think the current board honestly and really wants to achieve and succeed. They want to do what's right for the town. I do believe that. I think that it would, if they took the advice about stop using previous board or prior board, because that doesn't do anything to close the
Wounds.
You're right, the wound. Good word, Bobby. I think if they were more willing to reach out and show that there's more than just one side of this group, because if you think about it, the two sides of the recall still as real today as it was the day that they had it. But they're trying to make an effort. I wish them well. I do want to mention the other day they voted 4-1 to increase the sewer rate 3.3%. Mike Sullivan took the opposition to it, which I'm proud of him, because he actually said that, hey, we need to give the taxpayers a break. So he's conscientious of that. I appreciate that. And one thing that the entire board did was they cut the water rates 5%. Unanimous decision to cut the water rates back, which I thought was a good will gesture. So I think the board, as soon as these are out, I want to let people know officially, I'm done. I'm through my grieving process, if you will. So let's try to get this thing. Let's try to get working together. Let's try to move forward. Let's have a good town meeting. Let's approach things realistically, though, and let's try to be realistic in the spending part. That's all I would say. That's all I'd say. Otherwise, I mean, they're still learning, and they still have a lot to learn, as we all do. You know.
Sure.
Everything. So, I think they'll do okay once they can understand that there are lots of people in town of all different makeup. You know, some rich, some little less, some like this, some don't like that. Just remember, you're representing everyone.
Say something nice.
Well, that's what I meant. I want
I'm just saying
I think they're caring. I think they put effort
Right.
into it, really committed. There's no doubt about it. So that, I think, is really nice. I mean, they're all people are genuinely concerned for the betterment of this town, which I cannot appreciate enough.
Well, that's good. What about the Chengdu? I'm sure you must know what's going on there.
Oh,
I
heck.
can tell you.
Yeah,
I can
we
tell
do.
you I can tell you a lot about Chengdu. Chengdu, it was about 4 weeks ago, they finally got their building permit. O'Connor from Milton finally got his building permit.
Uh-huh.
They say that it's been there for 2.5 years. There were two individuals that went to the planning board and started arguing over windows, the coloring, this, that, held that building up for 2.5 years. The guy was a gentleman. He still stood by. He lowered the things down because of parking. Parking was a big problem. Peter and I asked Peter to come with me. We spent many cold days over to Deacon Plumbing and asked if we could rent 4 spots, not rent, to the owner. We couldn't use the parking lot down where the police station was because there's a 500 feet, I think it's 500 feet, and we couldn't do that. I went to Mr.
Within where you live.
Yeah, where you
park,
live, where
yeah.
they're going to build it.
Distance.
I went to Mr. Kelly. He was more than gracious to do that. We went across the street to see if we could do it. Deacon said, I'd love to do it, but we've other plans in the future. No problem. That is now, the man said to me he will start at least demolish the place. He said probably late spring. Mm-hmm. He said there's no problem. I think they'll cut the units to 24 units. And myself, that starts the renovation, the
I agree with
revitalization.
that building will jumpstart.
Jumpstart the town of Stoughton. Also, I understand right across the street from the railroad station, there's a big lot there.
Yeah, at the corner.
Yep, right across the street from that restaurant that I hope will open soon, so I can go in and try their food. Right across the street there, I understand he's getting ready to start to build an apartment house there.
Wasn't that Bill Hersey?
That's right. It's
Scott?
Scott Hersey.
Oh, Scott Hersey.
Scott Hersey. And believe me, when he builds something, he builds a very, very good product. Very good. Well trusted and a resident of Stoughton. The board itself, when we were there, we took criticism. I myself, the only thing I can say about the board is you got senior citizens. And the rate we're spending money right now, you won't have many senior citizens in this town. Senior citizens are struggling. Not me, but there's a lot of people in this town that I see, because I'm a senior citizen, that say we're going to have to move soon because we just can't afford the tax rate. And that's a shame. And yes, we did need a high school, and yes, we did need a library, but the next thing that should be in line is the fire station. The fire station is so important. Go in and look at that. I call it a dump. People actually sleep in that place.
This is the one on Freeman Street.
Right on Freeman Street. Go in and, please, anyone that sees this, go in there and just ask if you can take a tour of it. Disgraceful.
So what are you recommending there? Just as a citizen?
As a citizen, there was a spot they found. They had a spot down on 138. I don't think the fire chief liked it. If you're going to stay in the spot you're going to stay in, there's 2 lots already for sale there. Buy them and start making, and if you're going to build something, build it with expansion. Expansion, expansion. We did it to the police station. The day the police station opened, it was too small. No, even if you didn't finish it, you at least build it the way it was supposed to be done.
Right.
And now what do we got? A major down there's another place that has to be fixed. And again, this is not this board. This has been neglect of buildings for years and years and years in this town. Well, we'll do it next year. We'll do it next year.
Can't keep putting it off.
No, I'll give you another example. The fire department, he came up with a master plan for his vehicles and everything else. Well, we're due for a pumper. And someone says, we just got one. Yeah, but the old one in the back is, they're going to rotate the shift. These trucks work. And we have no money this year. There's a tough budget. I give them credit. They did stand up. They did present a
It
budget.
doesn't help when you're paying settlements you shouldn't be paying either, so, I mean, I hate to
Correct.
bring that back up, but
That-
that's an unfortunate part of the
Well, we
issue.
got to work with that,
And
unfortunately.
now, the railroad station, I understand they're building that. What are we going to do at the railroad station? What are we going to do at the railroad station? If anyone's been in that building,
It's a beautiful building.
oh, that floor, the walls, but it's leaking.
Well, it needs to be maintained.
I estimate, and people are going to laugh at me, $5 million to get that building, and that is going to be a constant drain on this town. The question is there, before they sign, there's 35 spots. The old deal was that was supposed to be free. They wouldn't let them charge, to park there.
Right.
And Mass Historical Society has to okay everything done in that building. I hope and pray that they get that out of there.
Well, we'll see.
There's another thing. But as far as the board goes, Peter's right. It's all over. We got our stuff out. It's done. I give Bob O'Regan a lot of credit for making phone calls. He's still doing it. And I spoke to another one that he said, would you serve on a committee? I don't know yet.
You got to do it, Bobby. You've got too much to offer.
I mean, the center of town, in my opinion, 10 years ago we put lights in here. By the way, the street lights in this town are probably more light than anyone in any surrounding town has. We lost $8,000 on a rebate. We got $188,000 from the utility. National Grid gave us a check for $188,000.
That's great. Listen, I got to, we only have
Oh,
20
geez.
seconds left. I want to thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Roy.
You telling us the story that you told us, and hopefully everything will work out and everybody will just start getting along and work for the benefit of the town. Okay, and this is Roy Cohen saying thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the information that we presented today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.